Mama is unpredictable and people around her know that. But there are times when even I, as a reader, goes completely shocked by whatever comes out of her mouth. For example, when they visited the quack doctor's village and they decided to help the farmers pay off their debt, she literally announced that she will sell herself as a bet. Thankfully, even if she lost, Jinchi was there to buy her again. Now, one of my favorite part about slow burn stories is when the characters travel together. Cause the chances of them getting along, being sick while the other take care, and of course, them actually having a heart-to-heart conversation is way higher that way. But like Xiaoma, our writer have a thing for being unpredictable. I was hoping for some romantic scenes, but was given with them shopping together, him sleeping in her carriage, her cleaning his face with her used foot-soaked water, them getting along only to bully Basin, and of course, her betting on herself for a drinking competition and him saving her from getting an ugly bruise. So when they stopped by the Quack's village, they were greeted by his sister, Auntie Quack, her husband, and their 2 sons. But when she greeted them the first time, she said, "I must say, I never expected a eunuch like you to come home with such a lovely young bride," referring to Mama. "There's no such a thing, I'm afraid." The Quack got that it was a joke and brushed it off, but there was a certain someone whose heart nearly cracked open. "I suppose not," she said, but the teasing bit of their banter was accompanied by a sound of a bowl striking something hard. Mama looked over to find that Jinchi had dropped his tray. Maybe purposefully, or maybe he was having this reaction all over again. He was disguising himself as Basin's servant with a burn mark on his cheek where the scar was. He seemed to be carefree while Basin was stressing out about the fact that he had to be Jinshi's master. They spent the night at the Auntie Quack's house and she offered to prepare the bath for them. They were guests after all, but Basin declined, saying that they had already put her to more than enough trouble. Frankly, Mama would have liked to wash her, but she couldn't contradict Basin, who must have been acting on quiet instructions from Jinchi. Instead, Mama asked for a bucket to be brought to her room, and she wiped down herself with a hand towel. She just took the sweat off, the water was too cold to want to do much more. Then she finally decided to wash her hair, which was starting to get oily. For that purpose, she put hot water in a bucket, just a cup's worth. After her hairs goes in her feet, because they were very cold, and the water was still warm. While she was wiping her hair, there was a knock at the door. "Come in," she said, but there was no response from the outside. Puzzled, she opened the door a crack and looked out. She was greeted by the sight of an unsettling man with a burn standing there. She didn't say anything, just opened the door and unsettling man that was Jinchi came in. The window of her room was closed. She'd been washing after all, and the next room over belonged to Jinchi and Basin. "You can talk, I don't think anyone's going to hear us," she said. "Did I interrupted you washing?" he asked. "Just my hairs. I'm sorry for not being more presentable," Mama said, continuing to pat her hair as she moved the bucket to the corner of the room. It was cramped space and the bed was about the only place to sit down, so Mama remained standing, looking at Jinchi. "You should sit down," he said. "My hairs are still wet," she replied, giving him a look that meant, "Why are you here anyways?" Jinchi, touching the burn on his cheek, showed her a cloth-wrapped package. "I'd like to get rid of this thing for a while. Do you think you can replicate the makeup?" The package contained everything needed to create it. "Probably. I think I can do it," she said. "If you would, then remove it for now." He dipped a handkerchief into the bucket. And Mama goes, "Oh, what is it?" he asked, looking at her expression, and she said she'd prepare fresh water, which he declined. Mama didn't say anything more, but she stared at the bucket. It didn't look too filthy, she thought. "Is something the matter?" Jinchi asked again. "No, sir, nothing." She wanted to say that she dipped her feet in the bucket after washing her hair, but she decided to keep that to herself. Jinchi didn't seem to be bothered by the used water, so she decided there was no need to trouble herself getting more. She damped the handkerchief and rubbed at his face. It was a nice new cotton handkerchief, but it quickly grew dirty with the dye in the glue. He closed his eyes and let her work, enjoying the feel of the warm, damp cloth. He looked so truly unguarded, she worried that he might find his head chopped clean off, the assassin laughing all the while. But her mind randomly went, "Athlete's foot can spread to the face, can it?" When she didn't even have athlete's foot. She buried the thought and asked him why they were here anyways, when their destination was somewhere else. He told her that he wanted to see the first-hand reaction of increased tax and also the fact that Lahan, Mamo's cousin, who have the obsession with Abacus and Jinchi, thinks that there's something off about this place. Jinchi must have been getting sleepy while talking, for he gradually slumped on the bed until he was laying down. Thinking what a lot of trouble he could be, Mamo sat on the bed and began gently stroking his hair. He wasn't wearing perfume, yet a faintly floral scent still wafted from him. "Shall I redo your burn now, or would you rather wait till the morning?" "Now, please." His drowsy voice was was more alluring than normal. Reflecting that she could cause a big disaster if she were to kick him out right now, she stirred the glue and dye with her fingers and added some water to give it the right consistency, and then began to dab it around his scar. Couldn't Master Basin do this? She asked while working. It doesn't quite help the talent. So this is why you brought me along? It's not the only reason, Jinshi said. He seemed to like physical contact. As he closed his eyes like a child, she spread the glue around with the tip of her fingers. Don't fall asleep, she warned him. I'll call Master Basin first. How helpful do you think you'd be if you did? He asked. Not very, admittedly. Unlike his father Gaoshun, Basin didn't have the knack yet, she thought. Believe it or not, but she probably liked Gaoshun way more than I do. Cause she asked before she could stop herself. Why is he your assistant anyway? Part of the problem exactly was that she hadn't seen Gaoshun for quite a while, and she missed the restorative effect he had on her. She missed the middle-aged man, occasional mischievous streaks. Jinshi slowly opened his eyes a little wider. The dark pupils show a shade of surprise. I know how he can seem, but he's perfectly competent when it matters. If you'll forgive me saying so, sir, you don't sound very convinced. Maybe Jinshi was a bit soft on Basin. They were milk brothers after all. Then again, if Basin was genuinely comfortable around Jinshi, that was sort of talent in itself. Mama finished the burned makeup and was about to wash her goopy hands when she had a thought. With her clean hand, she reached for her luggage and pulled out a bronze sheet she used as a mirror. Then she tried painting the stuff around her mouth. She grinned, looking like a monster. That is positively awful, Jinshi laughed. Mama, figuring that she could simply wash the goop off again, was seized by the desire to paint it around her eyes and cheeks as well. Now a disturbing face floated on the bronze plate, almost corpse-like. Jinshi, completely stuck to the side, was trying desperately not to laugh. She felt bad for him. He was practically in pain, but she leaned over to finish the job. And then there was a knock on the door and Basin called out, I'm coming in. The door opened before they could stop him. His widened eyes were greeted by the sight of Jinshi, apparently doubled over with pain, and Mao leaning toward him, her face and hand covered in something red. He didn't say anything. They didn't say anything. Shortly thereafter, Basin couldn't say anything. Just as he was about to shout for someone, Mama crammed the handkerchief into his open mouth while Jinshi pinned him down. And let's say it was the most coordinated thing they'd done since the day they'd met. God, I can't wait for this to be drawn and animated. I have this visual image of them and I love it to bits. Only if we get till book 5 in season 2. The next day, Mama attended the discussion with others, and the quack was visibly shaking. Other than the restaurant owner's wife, Mama was the only woman around, and he seemed worried about it. No one else, though, seemed to take any interest in the scrawny chicken girl in there. If anything, a few of them seemed to be chuckling among themselves and puzzling about why was she even there. But Mama had her own usual way of handling situations, even when a tough crowd surrounds her. She didn't look like much, small, scrawny, and rather plain to the rough-looking man in the inn. Let's just say it was a tense meeting. The papermakers were at the risk of losing their land to a greedy landlord who insisted that they either pay their debt or teach his people their trade secret and leave. Mama, who sat quietly observing from the sideline, noticed how the landlord and his men drank only the finest liquor. She got up to investigate the documents that were presented there. They were pretty valid, but the landlord was eager to get the family out of their land. Somehow they seemed to hate the outsiders. As always, curiosity got the best of her and she ordered their wine as well. Young lady of all times, the quack looked downright frustrated with her, and as did his brother-in-law. As needless to say, did Basin. But Jinshi motioned for her to order more. Mama took a sip of the local cloudy wine, and as she tasted it, everything makes sense to her somehow. Her lips twisted into a smirk, and without hesitation, she stood up, strode over to the landlord's table, and slammed her cup down, giving them a smile that looked somewhat like a wild animal. What do you want, little girl? Gonna pour us a drink? The landlord gave her a mocking grin, then burst out laughing. Young lady? The quack was practically clinging to her, trying to understand what she was doing. Basin nearly stood up from his seat himself, but at a discreet tug on his sleeve from Jinshi, he sat back down. I think it was the first time Basin was seeing Xiaomao in action, and I guess it's safe to say that he was a bit worried about her. That's why he'd been nagging her to why she even joined them. Mama chuckled and said to the landlord, How about a drinking contest, my good sir? A drinking contest? Huh, you got some nerve, I'll give you that. The landlord said, amused by the young woman who'd appeared before him. The farmers all laughed and the papermakers looked like they had lost all the hope. And the quack doctor? Well, he was practically beside himself. Only Jinshi, accustomed to Mama's typical behavior, appeared unmoved. You can't be serious, the quack's brother-in-law said. He and his sons looked deeply worried. It'll be alright, but I have a question. How much is left on your debt? It was somewhere about 4,500 silver pieces, which was a lot of money by the way. Too much that no one will be willing to lend them, not even the Imperial Commission. She said, I see, and seated herself across from the landowner. Since we're doing this, how about a bet? Intrigued, the landlord leans in, his laughter turning into a sneer. What could you possibly have to bet? Her reply shocked everyone around and made Jinshi jump out of his chair. She had said, You have already seen it, smacking herself in the chest. If you sell me, I'll bring at least 300 silver. Several of the farmers spat out their drinks. Mama, though, simply nodded as if to indicate her calm confidence. The landlord laughed harder than ever, practically doubling over. 300 silver for you? Do you have any idea how the market works, kid? The most perfect jewel in the world don't sell for more than 100, and you think you? The landlord was laughing so hard, spittle flew from his mouth, his friends likewise. Mama looked at them and then gave them her own laugh. She made sure that they knew it was a mocking sound. The drunken men picked up on it as she hoped, and a good half of them began to glare at her. You only think that because a daikon fresh out of dirt will never go for more than 50 silver, Mama declared. Do you think you don't even realize that? She felt her body jerk as someone grabbed her by the collar, pulling her up until she was standing on her tiptoes. Jinshi was about to make a move, but she shot him a look out of the corner of her eye. Just you say that again. Now the farmer was angry, red in the face, and coming for her with his fist raised. His clenched hands were blackened with the dirt of the field, and she could see that if he hit her, it was going to be unpleasant. But I might have to live with it, she thought. She'd come this far, she couldn't back down now. The quack had collapsed while his fellow villager watched with look of horrors. You can't even read or write, Mama continued. You'll never even use a paper, let alone do a decent job of making it, even if they did teach you. The fist launched at her, but it never hit her. Instead, there was a thwack of something striking the table. Someone had interposed himself between Mama and the furious farmer. A purse was on the table now, and Jinshi was standing between the two of them. He turned the purse over, and a lot of silver poured out quite noisily. Everyone in the room looked at it with their eyes wide and mouths open, including Basin, whose mouth was opening and closing uselessly. What, he seemed to wonder, was Jinshi doing? 300 silver would be cheap at the price of this girl, Jinshi said. He had pitched his voice a little lower than usual, and he seemed to use his handsome yet unsettling look to keep the room in check, and he almost casually brushed away the hand of the man holding Mama, whose first thought was, don't go flashing your silver like that. But she had no choice but to roll with it. She straightened her collar, planted a foot on the chair, and stuck out her chest. You see, men who know value know what they're looking at when they're looking at me. The farmer who'd been about to hit her growled and give her a baleful glare instead. In return, Mamo and Jinshi both gave the farmer their most galling smirks. We don't have to put up with this, boys. Let's teach them to mind their manners, one of the other farmers said, but the landlord held up a hand. Don't get ahead of yourself, he said, and the other farmers flinched and sank back. You've put real money on the table. As far as I'm concerned, you got yourself a bet. So he was on board, Mama smiled, an expression that might have looked out of place at that particular moment, and removed her foot from the chair. Very good. Who's first then? The people from the paper-making village stared at Mama like they couldn't believe what was happening. The quack doctor was still flat on the floor. Jinshi, meanwhile, was giving Mama a look that communicated that he was very upset about this. Basin looked upset that Jinshi was upset, and the bag full of coins sat at the table. And that's how Mama defeated more than 4 large men in a drinking competition. After defeating the fourth one, Jinshi whispered in her ear, 100,000? Not a bad bargain. Imagining that he might have to buy her again only strengthened her resolve not to lose this contest. Though I don't think he would mind buying her again and again. I mean, he seemed like the type of person who would spoil their partners with money and gifts while asking for bare minimum in return. Like when they stopped to get things for their journey ahead, he didn't even think twice about giving her the purse of silver coins just so he could join her and roam around the market. Anyways, the drinking competition made Mamo a couple hundred silver, and the funny part was that she was not at all doing this for the quack or his family, because she had already figured that the farmers were involved in tax evasion, not just for the alcohol but also for their rice field, as they have lied to the government saying that the rice field were not harvesting properly since they wanted to use that profit for alcohol production. So that's double tax evasion. Do you have any proof? One of the farmers demanded. Yes, that's right. Can you prove it? Another said. Prove it? Maybe, maybe not. But Jinshi was standing right there, so she had her witnesses. Don't worry, Mama said. If you're innocent, then you won't mind if the officials were to search your houses. She made extra sure to smile as she said that. The farmers felt silence. Ah, bingo, she said. You've got guts, girlie, the landlord said, clenching his still spinning head. But if you think you can talk like that and get away with it? Mama stood looking down at the landlord. I might say the very same to you. Take a look around and then consider your words carefully. At least a third of his people were collapsed with a drink. For that matter, so was he. The rest might still be on their feet, but they were far from sober. Meanwhile, her party included 6 well-built men who hadn't drank a drop. She was obviously not including the quack in this number. Above all, they had Jinshi and Basin with them, along with the other bodyguards who'd come rushing in from outside if anything threatened either of them. Just then the farmer's daughter come rushing in from the door, and a little family drama started. Turns out that one of the quack's nephew married the farmer's daughter. That was one more reason for him to hate the outsiders. Frankly, Mama was over this whole thing, but she couldn't just leave them in this mess, so she created an agreement for them. It was simple but fair. The village would get more time to pay their debt, and the landlord would sell regular rice shipment as a part of this settlement to the Verdigrees' house for her. As for the landlord's daughter and the quack's earnest nephew, it seemed that there was a budding romance there, though Mama couldn't have cared less. But she surely left that village with a reputation of her own. And after this, they left for the west, and few chapters later, this scene happened. If you haven't watched it yet, feel free to check it out. That was all for the video. Take care of yourself and goodbye.
No, you'll never be the same. I don't really wanna hurt you, but I can't control the pain. If you're sticking by my side, maybe we could be okay. Okay, maybe you could be the change.